Hi, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator Mike Belcher. Do you want the W in there as well?
Please.
Yes, okay, Mike W. Belcher. Thank you for jumping in, joining, and I am appreciating once more the art that's behind you, the Matt Wagner take on Man in the Mask, as well as lovely action figure collection as well.
Thank
Some
you.
nice creative space.
Like I said, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I mentioned Man in the Mask, but there will be other things that we talk about as well. I believe you're also working with Silverline, is that right?
Yeah, I'm their kind of their production designer, and I letter a bunch of their books.
Awesome.
Roland's a longtime friend, and he's let me kind of roll around with the Silverline gang for. I guess when I first met Roland, I didn't. Well, I met him online '97, '98
Hmm.
when he was. There's been three iterations of Silverline. The first one was in the '80s with the black and white boom.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
he tried to bring it back in the late '90s. That's where I did some lettering for him. And we just became friends. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, he decided to do his Silverline 3.0, as he calls it. And he
Wonderful.
wanted me to be a part of it. And so I letter a bunch of books and I do logos. He's always invited me to do comics, but, as far as my schedule goes, the lettering and the production wise, that's basically what I can do with them. But like I said, I love them. Like I said, I'm very lucky to be rolling with them.
Yeah, yeah. What was your introduction to comics like? What was your moment where you knew this was the space that you wanted to be in?
Well, I've read comics all my life. I mean, I tell people some people say, "Well, what's your first comic?" I can't remember what my first comic. I don't remember a time I didn't read comics. It was that early in my life. My cousin, I think the story is my cousin gave me a whole bunch of old comics, and I just took to them. Six or
Yeah.
7 years old, it just took to them. And then probably when I was about 13, I just, I kind of, it dawned on me, these guys do this for a living.
Mhm.
And I thought, why not? And even though I went to school for graphic design, I kind of geared everything I did toward the idea that one day I'd make a comic, whether it be for a publisher or make one for myself. So I guess like I said, I kind of geared my career toward it. And even though, like I said, it's not my main career, it takes up a lot of my time, and I'm very happy about it because like I said, I find myself very blessed because I waited. I'm a little older in the tooth, so to speak, than I probably would have envisioned myself at 13 doing this stuff. But if this is the second stage of my life, I'm enjoying it. So it was a good time to start it up,
Mhm.
and because now I don't have, I guess, that that ego or that kind of arrogance that sometimes gets in your way. I just find myself very lucky for any comic that's got my name on it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a nice thing that I find about getting older, which is that a little bit of that desire to prove yourself for some reason gets lessened. I don't know if you've experienced that too, but
Yeah,
it's just like I just want to do work I enjoy at this point. So,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. And I continue to enjoy the art that you post on social media and that you share. So it does seem that you are having a good time with this.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about it. I love. I feel like I'm making up for lost time. I kind of held off on social media for a bunch of years, a whole lot of years, and when I started publishing, someone said to me, "Well, you would probably kill you to get on Facebook." And so I did it kind of begrudgingly. And then when I got on there, I realized that, trying to cultivate an audience with an unknown property. So I guess, like I said, you can say I'm making up for lost time by doing pinups and artwork of characters that I probably won't ever be commercially paid to draw.
Yeah.
But I still love them to death, and I definitely want to show my influences. And so, that's where a lot of the big two pinups come from. It's just my desire to kind of show myself and enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I would say if DC and Marvel want to innovate and try some new things out, inviting folks like you to do some of those stories, I think could be some nice reinvigoration. Just
You know,
putting that out there.
I agree. I agree. The the big two are just kind of in this mold. They've been in the mold for about 10 or 15 years, and they don't really kind of, you've had some great situations like with Darwin Cook, and
Hmm.
and you had some, great stylistic stuff, but generally they've been playing it very safe for 10 or 15 years. They don't really go out for the style guys. And when I was growing up, the style guys are the ones I remembered. The
Hmm.
guys that were unique. You had, the Burns and the Simonsons, and those are the guys that last because, they brought something unique to it. The Mazzucchellis,
Hmm.
who basically just have a very small footprint, but the footprint, goes a far piece just because it's so memorable. And
Yeah.
that's what stylists, and I didn't necessarily try to make it look like that. It just that was the kind of thing that appealed to me. And because I've shown people some of my pencils, because I call myself kind of, I dumb down my pencils because actually when I get to the inking process, that's where my style comes out. But if
Mm-hmm.
you were to see my pencils, it's a lot more detailed. It's a lot more, not realistic, but I put a little more detail into it. But the inking process is where I kind of dumb it down and make it a little more simple, and it works. And like I said, it looks right to my eye, so that's the way I go with it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Who would you point to? You mentioned a couple of names there. Who would you point to as major influences? Um, some of those folks or names in addition to the ones you just mentioned?
Well, I definitely meant Wagner.
Yeah,
Wagner,
yeah.
while I'm not, I said I don't draw a lot of stuff. The influence is there.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
probably Wagner, John Byrne, and Mike Parabek. I'm
Oh,
a huge,
yes.
and a lot of people, he's a huge influence, and it really some people will say, well, your stuff kind of looks like this, but when they say Mike Parabek, it puts a smile on my face because back in the day when he was out and it was like very underappreciated, it's
Hmm.
like I just couldn't believe this guy just wasn't on every top book, and just and unfortunately we lost him.
Yeah.
And there's still people who understand and appreciate it. But
Hmm.
gosh, I mean, I just think his stuff, it was so far ahead of the curve. And like I said, I guess my stuff kind of gravitates towards that also. There was just a fun bounce to it because
Yeah.
that's what comics should be. Comics can be anything. It's comics are unlimited.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
aren't just this, they aren't just that. They can be anything they want to be. But I do believe people do tend to take it too serious. I think that some people get in there and they want to make Watchmen. Well, Watchmen was singular,
Yeah.
and not everybody should try to be Watchmen. I don't want to see everybody do Watchmen.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it should kind of vary a little bit. And like I said, I like to have fun with it.
I love that aspect and can consider it a smileable moment because when I looked at your work the first time, I thought there's very much that Mike Parabeck, like I really appreciated the stuff he did on JSA, on the Batman adventures. I was all into that, and that was the first time I remember looking at someone's name on a book and going, "Wow, this was made by this person," and I can see this signature style. And then when he passed, I couldn't believe it. I was probably 12, 13 at the time or something like that. And I remember seeing kind of a note that I think Scott Peterson had put in the book. And I just thought, what? There's this amazing artist that I've discovered. I've just connected like the name to this style, and it almost seemed like immediately after that he was gone. But that you're absolutely right. He had that motion and that style and just a beauty to the work. And so I know that's what kind of attracted me to what you do initially as well.
Well, thank you, thank you. Like I
Hmm.
said, Parabeck. I can't sing enough praises for Parabeck. The fact that he landed on the Batman Adventures and the Tim style and did his own thing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
you had a lot of people that went in there and they copied the Tim style exactly, but you could still see Mike Parabeck in that art.
Hmm.
and you can still see his style and his page layouts. I say it just, what we lost something, and it just, but we should treasure every page that we had of him. I mean, it's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so curious about you were talking about Silverline. Curious about what it's been like to work with that company and collaborations, folks there that have been kind of strong supporters, positive experiences, things of that nature, and then would also love to talk Man in the Mask.
The Silverline guys are great. I mean, there's such a varied amount of professionalism with them. I mean, Roland, a lot of the people used to be with Malibu Comics.
Hmm.
A lot of the names that you see in the Silverline books are ex Malibu people. And
Hmm.
if you were a fan of the Ultraverse or anything to do with Malibu, those guys were quality guys. And Silverline gives them the ability to continue the quality that they did. And I've been able to, like I said, the lettering process is great because I'm marrying the story with the art and putting it together and trying not to be obtrusive. It's like I tell people when I letter something, I don't want you to notice that I did it, because if you
Hmm.
notice I did it, I did something wrong. Because as comic book readers, we're geared to seeing lettering, and it's unseen. We really shouldn't praise the letterer because by even noticing the letter, so I kind of see myself as the glue. And
Hmm.
people like R.A. Jones, who did so much for Malibu, and Rob Davis, who did Star Trek, and a lot of the Star Trek adaptations for Malibu. And like I said, just collaborating with Roland just in general, because getting notes
Hmm.
and telling me, well, when you get this, keep in mind of this. And so I've been extremely lucky that the writers and the artists that have passed their stuff along to me, they give me a very large area of kind of improvisation, of being able to kind of, you know, stuff that I've seen in comics for years, but also stuff that I like to kind of add to it.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
as far as collaboration, it's by email and by notes. It's certainly not like this, but like I said, I find myself very lucky, and I've been very lucky with other collaborations other than Silverline. I've had a few. Mostly, I consider Man in the Mask a self-published book. It's completely done by me and my son.
Hmm. Hmm.
But as far as I've done some other stories for some other people, with some other people. Um, so the collaboration thing, it's nice. It's nice to be able to feed off somebody else's imagination. You can get kind of lost in your own world sometimes, and the collaboration that allows you to do that. And like I said, Silverline, I do enough for them to have that, but not too much where I feel overwhelmed, or I kind of like, okay, guys, give me back off a little bit, and
Hmm. Hmm.
let me. So I find myself like on that.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned the collaboration with your son for Man in the Mask, and so I'm
Yeah.
curious about what that's like because that's got to be a really nice special thing to get to put out into the world.
I developed Man in the Mask like 20 some years ago,
Hmm.
and I let life get in the way. I let a lot of things kind of beat me down, and I just never got around to it. And comics and my son, I never, like here, he kind of just gravitated towards them. And he was about 12 or 13, and he would go through my portfolios and my stuff, and he'd say, "Well, what is this?" And I told him what it was. I said, "Well, one of these days I might get to it. One of these days I might never get to it. I don't know." He said, "Well, what if I help you? What can I do to help you do this?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of doing all of it. Maybe we can figure out coloring, maybe." And he thought that was a great idea.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
pretty much since day one, he's been my colorist. He's so it doesn't feel like it's completely on me, and he's been there, and it's been interesting watching him develop his own, going from where I showed him some things. I showed him some things that as far as just the basics of coloring.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's interesting as you know because that was 10 years ago, and you know he's 23 now, and very accomplished artist for himself, and like I said, it's been interesting watching his coloring style, and you know, before it was kind of like, okay, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, and then when he wouldn't do it, it's like, yeah, I want you to do this. Now he gives me, well, Dad, well, if I do it this way, and so now it's not a challenge, but he's giving me a more informed idea of maybe something I'm not seeing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the process of growing with him with Man the Mask has been the other reward. I mean, it's always rewarding to see your, your stuff in print, but
Mhm.
doing it with him has been, oh my gosh, so rewarding because we'll sit behind the table at cons, and you know, people who know me know him just as much as they know me, and they
Mhm.
love him. And you know, he's had other opportunities to color other people's work. He's done stuff for Silverline. Um, so it's the again, that goes back to me saying the second part of my life. You know, this has been rewarding
Mhm.
because again, had I did it early and been discouraged, or I would have maybe never did it with him. And because of that, it was I like I said, I kind of feel like it was meant to be. That it was, you know, because again, the other part of it is I've got him as a kind of like he's at my back, and
Mhm.
he helps me, you know, the days that maybe I don't feel like I've done. Yeah, it's like I don't think I like that page very much. He said, "Well, Dad, look here. I like this. I like what you do with this, and you know."
Yeah.
So he's very you know he can throw out criticism. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm. Mhm.
but he definitely is a very invaluable part. And you know he's been in college, and so I've never rushed him. You know that's what I tell him. I said when I get a Man and Mask issue done, I get it done,
Mhm.
and when you get to it, you get to it. You know, that's not our we do this for fun. We don't do this for any kind of pressure. And, and like I said, I think the stuff looks, you know, as far as where we started to where we are now, I think we've grown, and
Mhm.
I said I'm extremely proud of the just the product, but I'm very proud of the collaboration, and like I said, the fact that we've done it together.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're coming to sort of a final question here, I guess the thing to leave listeners with might be like a tagline, um, kind of the major thrust of the book, but then also where folks can go and find your work.
The tagline is "Fun to be the good guy."
Yep. Yeah.
You know, you know, Man the Mask. When I was coming up with it, there was a couple of little criteria that I wanted. The biggest criteria is I wanted it to be the kind of comic that not only did I grow up on, but also the comics that I discovered from the 40s and the 50s, and so I called Man the Mask a modern golden age story.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
my attempt to do a character that's not built on tragedy or vengeance, but of responsibility and volunteerism, like the characters of the 40s and the 50s, that while those stories were simple, they were accidentally character driven.
Mhm.
And the things that made them stick out and that made them stay so alive all these years that we're still talking about them.
Mhm.
And so, Man in the Mask, like I said, it's fun to be the good guy. It's the idea that this guy is kind of watching over his community. You know, he can't bench press a bus. You know, he can't save the world, but he can watch over his neighborhood.
Mhm.
He can watch over a wider community. And you know, it's heavily influenced by the spirit. I make no, you know, I make no secret of that. You know, I
Yeah.
loved Eisner and the spirit and the idea of him watching over Central City and kind of being just a guy. And you know he spent most of his time getting beat up, and
Mhm. Mhm.
but no
Mhm.
matter what, he didn't quit. And so you know you know the idea of Man in the Mask is kind of around that way. Is the idea that you know I can watch my community, I can do little things that can add up to something else, and it's character driven. You know, it's the idea. also of legacy. You know, his grandfather is the one who started the identity,
Hmm.
and he's carrying on that tradition, but he's carrying it on his way. And while it's completely another aspect of the way his grandfather would have done it, it's still, again, showing that you can put your own stamp on something. You
Hmm.
know, it's, and like I said, I try to do self-contained stories. I try to do, nothing complicated, but originally there's overarching themes of the book.
Yeah.
But like I said, the tagline, the elevator pitch is it's fun to be the good guy. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to be shameful, that you're out there trying to do the right thing. You
Hmm.
know, it's you don't that's one thing that it's the mission statement. He never has doubt of what he does,
Hmm.
but you can make so much other contentious points outside of making the hero doubt himself. There's so many other challenges you could do with a story to make it harder on a character. Self-doubt in a hero's mind, it seems contrary to me. And so, like I said, this is a guy who's at peace with what he does. But like I said, not everything's easy. This world is still what it is.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, I just remove little things that I just feel that are, you know, kind of contrary to what, like I said, the mission statement is. And it's I've got a graphic novel, 120-page graphic novel. I've
Hmm.
done 6 regular size comics, a couple of shorter stories. You can get them at Indie Planet. You can get them from me if you go to my like I said, my Facebook page links to my I've got AMK Comics
Hmm.
at bigcartel.com. That's my store. I sell them at cons. Like I said, I try to make them as available as possible. And like I said, of those 6 comics, there's 2 of them they're Halloween related. I love Halloween.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so like I said, and I'm working. I got behind this year because I had more commissions this year than I've ever before. This is what I fund my comics on is commissions.
Hmm.
So I got a little behind on the actual creating of the comic, but I've got issue 5 pretty much done. I just have to. There's some things that have to be done about that. I'm also trying to reorganize for this is probably not the greatest time of the year to launch a number 5. So I'm also trying out digital comics.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've got a presence on Global Comics that I'm giving that a try, trying to see if I can, what kind of audience that I can build with that. Like I said, I just try to make money. I've got a Substack. Again, the standard stuff, just trying to get your name out there, you get your character out there,
Yeah.
and that's that. Like I said, man, the mask. It sometimes it's for if you're nostalgic for maybe simpler times in comics and you just like fun adventure comics, man, the mask.
Fantastic. Yeah. As I said, I love the style. I love the mode of storytelling, that classic golden age kind of feel that you bring to it. So I'm glad to share about it and glad to showcase whatever artwork you want to share as I post this as well.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for jumping on again, and glad to talk with you as issue 5 develops and future issues come to be.
Definitely keep up with me on Facebook.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I'll make sure to link that, and thanks again.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was good. It was good talking with you.